Hello everybody, thanks for stopping by for another Screwy Tuesday. Just kind of an update what's happening in here. Of course, new tools, got more tools. As you know, my name's Chuck and I appreciate you taking a few minutes to stop by. Behind me here, I think you can see there's a large cast iron hand wheel here. The bore that we need to get in this unit right here is inch 500 thousandths. We started boring, myself and Flea Market Dave. This is for Dave. And here's a little clip of us at the drill press. Back from that clip, unfortunately, as we were working away here, I didn't get any clips of us starting the boring. It was using my 2-inch Criterion boring head, and we were starting to run out of travel, and so switched over to a larger Bridgeport unit, and we stopped there, and so I didn't get any film, but I'll see if I can catch it as we finish up on it. Mentioned new tools. Here's a video of a recent tool purchase. Back from that, some pretty neat Starrett items there. I always wanted one of those indicator hoops, and the mill tie down or hold down setup is 3/8, and I actually have a tooling plate that uses 3/8. So I was really kind of excited to pick that up. Some nice pieces, and as always, keep buying tools. Speaking of tools, in a previous video I showed you a hardage slide that I had purchased, and Randy Richard in the shop, he had sent me a note that he would love to have it and wanted to pay me for it, and I sent it to him. I didn't want any money for it, and he PayPal'd me some money, and I said, I don't want your money, I'm just going to let it sit there and it'll go back to you. It's just, you know, my pleasure to send it on to you. Well, he called me up and he said, what size dovetail cutter do you have? And so I said, I have the large one. When you first started, you sent it to me. Well, he ended up sending me one of his units, the box. This was the original dovetail cutter he had sent to me a long time ago when he started making them, and he sent me the new smaller version. It's got my outside screwball logo with his serial numbers and everything on it. Just an awesome gift. And you know, to have something from a friend that's made for you is priceless. It really is. And I really appreciate it, Randy. And he went above and beyond. I do have one of his scribes, which he sent to me very early on. And he sent me a stainless steel unit, the hex unit, and with my name, outside screwball inscribed on it, and just a beautiful unit. Randy, I really appreciate it, my friend. And, you know, I got to add a little story here, if you got time for a story, guys. So, when I started getting involved watching YouTubes and about machining, I was doing a couple of PowerPoint presentations. And I was watching Donald Cossett. And I hope you guys always check in with him. He hasn't been doing a lot of videos lately, but just a great friend, great guy. And we started talking, we on the phone, we would communicate besides email. And he kind of pushed me one day. He says, why don't you get in front of the camera and talk? And I says, I don't want to do that. And he pressed me, and well, now you're stuck with me. Well, Randy Richard, I found him on, I forget, one of the home builder tool boards or something. And the reason I had found him is he had copied, or he had mentioned, my portaband design for a vertical bandsaw in his article. And of course he built one for a different version of the portaband. It has the slanted handle. And of course I built a beta to try it out, and he built a pro job. He did just a beautiful build on his. And so we got talking, and I started pestering Randy. I was going like, oh, you're building such great product, you're doing such great work, you should be doing YouTube videos. So I think I want to take credit that I pressed him into doing YouTube videos. Of course, he blew right by me on subscriptions, the bastard. All the better though. He's a great guy. He does great builds, and I'm just so happy to have him and his wife as our family friends. Okay, so let's move on into the main shop, and I got another new tool to show you, something that's really been on my list. Keith Rucker actually I called him and asked him, hey, can you look back east to find this tool for me? And he actually put it on his Instagram channel or his YouTube or his Facebook channel saying, hey, help Chuck to find one of these. Well, this seagull did some flying and I got one. So let's move the camera and we'll talk about it. So this is my new tool in the shop, and it's something I really wanted. Flea Market Dave and myself were in a competition kind of to see who could get one first. I honestly had never seen one before, and I was over at Carl's shop and he had one there, and I said, what's that? And he showed me how it's used, and I said, oh, I got to own one of those. A Beverly shear. And there's a Beverly shear 1, 2, and 3. This is a 3. The 3 is the larger of all of them, and it's designed to cut up to 3/16 plate. That's quite impressive for a hand-operated shear. The thing I didn't know about it. Well, let's talk about how I purchased it first off. So I've been looking, and almost bought one a little bit upstate. Actually wrote the guy, I actually told him I'd buy it, and decided it's too small of a shear, and I turned it down. Kept looking, and I would just Craigslist and go from city to city and wandered all the way into Arizona. And I found this out in the outskirts of Phoenix in a small town in Arizona. And contacted the fella and said, well, hey, I'm in San Jose, California. And he goes, how in the hell did you find me? And I said, well, I just kept on searching. And he says, well, it's interesting. He goes, I was from Redwood City. I was a shop teacher, and this tool here was in Redwood City. He ended up taking it with him when he left the shop there. So we talked about how to ship it. I bought it at a fantastic price, $100, and you can't see these guys at $100. So I said, okay, I'll pay the shipping, and then I said, well, how close are you to Phoenix? And I think he was like 45 minutes away from Phoenix, and his car was a mess, and they couldn't stop. He had all sorts of issues. Well, my wife's niece lives in Phoenix, and so I contacted them and said, can we set up some sort of meet and greet where you can purchase the tool for me? I'll send you the money. And it's my niece too. She said, I'll do anything for you, whatever you need. So her and her husband went and met the fella, picked it up, and by just the oddest chance, her daughter lives close to us and comes by and visits all the time. Well, they were bringing a car to her for Thanksgiving. So they came here for Thanksgiving dinner, and they delivered it. I think that's a pretty good seagull story. That far away for $100. Very nice for the family to help me. So I said this unit will cut 3/16 plate. Well, one thing I didn't know is that this plate right here is part of the shear, and there's 2 set screws here, and there's this dog that locks this bottom plate into position. Well, I learned this by, of course, going online and getting something to read, and basically you set your clearance on the blades to about 10% of what your thickness is of what you're cutting. So if you're going to cut 3/16 plate, of course the gap between the blades has to be much wider. Typically here I'm not going to be cutting 3/16 plate. So I've checked it, and it's really set up at about 4 thousandths clearance, and here's 47 thousandths 18 gauge stainless steel, and what this is it's a hold down, and there's actually a ball in there to help hold the material, and it would really be used on heavy material, but it allows it to roll. And so I mean, here's cutting the, I mean, that's simple. Now the cool thing about this shear, it's called a throatless shear. So in using the throatless shear, here's a whole bunch of practices, but you can cut radiuses. So as you're using the shear, you can actually turn the blade. Let me just pull this up a little bit, see if I can find a piece so I can actually show you. So as you're cutting, you can just turn the piece of material and follow your line and make a cut. And you can see the radius that I cut there. So it was on my want list, and I managed to find it, got it at a fantastic price, and really excited. I put it on a tooling arm. If you go back, you've seen my previous videos of my addition to the welding table, where I can basically loosen the tooling arms, and I can slide the tools in and out and replace it. I have a vise, I've got a Diacro bender, and I've got my own bender that I've built. Just a great setup. So that's another new tool in the shop, and I'm going to pan the camera here, and you'll see the mess on the bench, and you can see the mag drill. It's in the cleanup process there. Motor came back, but there's a problem with it, and I was hoping to have that back together, but it's not going to be part of this video. Hopefully next week's video. All right, let me close out here for a second, and then I may be back. Let's see if there's something else I can show you. Well, in closing, just wanted to show you this one tool here, and see if you guys can guess what it is. It's shop made. It's a copy, and I had gotten this somewhere in a tooling purchase and never knew what it was. Always assumed it was like a long V block. It's got the guy's initials in it, and I actually, you can see it's been ground. I ground it's perfectly, I ground the whole thing, so the V's are in the center and everything. Well, never knew what it was. Asked people, you know what this is for? Nobody ever knew. And I was watching one of the old training videos. I forget who it was produced by, but this is what it's for. It's for the old rocker style for holding a boring bar. That's what this tool's designed for. and I thought that was quite unique to finally learn what it was all about. So anyway, thought I'd share that with you. If you guys ever come across it, I keep these. I have 2 of these, and I have all the tooling for it. There is some time you need to go to a rocker where you can reach in and grab something. So it's a very useful tool. And in closing, there's a Banggood box there, and that'll be in an upcoming video. Okay, thanks for stopping by the shop. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. If you enjoy what you're seeing, hit the old subscribe button. Help me out. Keep the channel growing. Thanks again.